everyone. Welcome to the Revenue Growth Architects podcast. It's Chrissy and Charlie here again. And today we're here to hit you with 3 great topics to talk about. And yeah, what's going on right now? It's almost January. I don't even know how that's possible. I feel like it was just the beginning of the year. So it's definitely creeped up on us. And I also think that that thing with like Thanksgiving being later, I don't know, it just makes December feel like this massive crunch. Yeah. So if you're feeling it, if you're in the crunch of December right now with the end of year and 1 million reporting requests,
you're not alone.
You're not alone. Might be very topical too, because we're going to go through some things that are kind of around reporting. So, but yeah, are you feeling that, Charlie? Across?
I think everyone is. Yeah, there's a trying to squeeze a month's worth of work into 2-ish weeks after coming back from Thanksgiving.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just got to get to it. So our first topic is kind of on the reporting side, and I know a lot of RevOps team, go-to-market ops team are kind of faced with this question a lot, and it's whether you should use a data warehouse and a BI tool along with your data warehouse to visualize the data to solve all of your reporting problems. Now, I think this is kind of a response to like the nature of people having disparate systems with different types of data that they want to join together. I also feel like it's a symptom of just go-to-market teams wanting to get all the data and then they don't even know what they want to do with it. And that's the need for that data warehouse. But of course, there's going to be exceptions to the rule. I think big companies, Google, Microsoft, any large enterprise, like they're used to using that for their reporting, but there's not really this need for some of the other things that we see as wrong with it. But yeah, I know you've talked about this a lot on your LinkedIn, and I'm currently undergoing this exercise audit with a large company's B2B side who's feeling the pain massively from having this. So yeah, do you have what's kind of your thoughts?
I think it's important to be clear about the pain point we're really zeroing in on here.
Yeah,
so we're definitely not against a BI tool. We're definitely not against a data warehouse. Where we see the pain that we want to dig into a lot and explore today is specifically around trying to join all of the tables or all of the objects together. So say, for example, you're using Salesforce, you've got lead, you've got contact, you've got account, you've got opportunity, you've got all these other objects, and you're trying to get a reporting around kind of attribution or reporting around your funnel or life cycle. And that is pretty hard often to do just out of the box. Well, it's impossible to do it out of the box in Salesforce, which is funny. Side point, I now have had maybe 5 or 10 times over the last few years a C-level person be on a sales call and just be like, I can't believe Salesforce doesn't do this stuff out of the box, or I can't believe HubSpot doesn't do this reporting out of the box. And I'm just like, I mean, I wish it could, but it's way too complicated for them, and it's not one size fits all. And anyway, so
although they're attempting to do it with like Data Cloud and all that CRMA, I feel like there are attempts at doing it, but it's not really quite there. Definitely not out of the box.
Whatever is out of the box is crap anyway. So it's like with HubSpot, the out of the box reporting on lifecycle or the out of the box reporting on lead source is terrible.
Yeah.
Because anyway. So I'm not going to get on that point. So you don't even want them to do it out of the box, because whatever they're going to do is going to be so cookie cutter and vanilla. It's not going to suit your business processes. It's not going to be good enough for you. You need to build a custom solution. It's not impossible. It's relatively technical and difficult. But anyway, so the point around the BI side is specifically, you've got all of these disparate objects. You're trying to get this full view of the buyer's journey, and you're trying to get that in a reportable format, while also fixing some data issues where maybe values aren't standardized, or there needs to be opportunities linked to certain kind of sources that aren't actually kind of obviously linked in your CRM. So you do all of this data manipulation, table joining, data transformation outside in your warehouse, and then visualize that in your BI tool. So when you look at the report in BI, it shows you something, but it is very different than the underlying data that you have in your CRM. That's kind of the story or the setup that we're evaluating here.
Yeah, I think just looking through this right now with the company, I've started to uncover some of the issues with it. And I think we see this time and time again, but I think one root problem that I see with it is the lack of trust in the data. And I think it's kind of in everyone's like kind of nature, but it's why like intent and things like that, people really struggle unless they can actually see what created that intent. It's like that black box mentality. I think people don't trust what they can't see or understand. Like people don't just believe, what they see. And so and then if you start to see discrepancies from what is in your CRM versus what's in the reports in BI, then that trust erodes. If you then start to see also other issues with not knowing what filters to add on, no ability to click into the reports and see what filters potentially are on the data, the data that's being used, it just creates this eroding trust from the C level. You're reporting back numbers that don't make sense compared to what sales is reporting on, because sales usually will just go look at whatever they have in CRM. And it's just kind of a little bit of a nightmare. And honestly, things could be perfectly fine in the setup, or that smart person that's building up the reporting the models like maybe has the best intentions, but they're probably trying to do a lot of filtering or do a lot of manipulation and massaging of the data that then doesn't happen at the source level. And so there's no way to then kind of articulate that, and we all know there's no documentation usually either. So that's one of the pain points that we see. And so am I a fan of BI and data warehouse? 100%. But I also am a fan of using that for its purposes, being able to house a lot of historical data so you don't have to keep that within CRM all time. Being able to also manipulate and create, custom dashboards a bit easier. 100%, I believe in that. But where I'm seeing the most issue is around that trust. And once it's been eroded, honestly, it's a very slippery slope. Whispers happen. Everyone just doesn't trust it and they want to start over.
Yeah, 100%. Seen that so many times now. It's as simple as just VP of marketing, CMO going to a report. Maybe they're going to start off trusting it. They go, wait, this number's a bit weird. Let me go dig in a little bit deeper. Oh, wait, how did this opportunity get linked to this? That seems weird. And then they go, okay, let me go have a look in Salesforce and see what's happening here. They look in Salesforce, they go, well, actually, this actually looks like this, or like this opportunity should actually been assigned to this. And actually, I don't know how we got from this underlying data set to this. Now, if this is happening on the one opportunity that I've looked at, this is probably happening on all of them. Mm-hmm. So now everything's wrong.
Yep.
It's kind of like the same thing that you mentioned, the black box. It's like with intent. If sales gets one lead that says this has got high intent and they call them and they don't have high intent, they're like, all these leads are crap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, human beings have this massive negativity bias where if you find something wrong, you are going to extrapolate that to a lot of other things. Like rightly or wrongly, that's how we operate. So that is a big part of it. The other thing, so I think the thing that is related to this that is really interesting and I really would recommend against is often the reason why all of this kind of interesting but technical work outside of Salesforce is happening to be able to join data together, get it in a reportable format, etc., and manipulate it, transform, update values, all this stuff. You're kind of just papering over all of the issues in your CRM. Mm-hmm. It's like, and somebody even responded to a post the other day. It's like, well, once you get to a certain size, it's really hard to solve these issues in your CRM. I don't particularly believe that. I mean, it is hard, mm-hmm. but it's just as hard to fix that in your BI tool. And it's like why fix it in this abstract layer above where everyone's working? So if you think about it, when you do all of this work outside of Salesforce, you're kind of shortcutting to try and get to a good report, but you're skipping over the step of making sure you're tracking and getting data input in the right format. You're making sure you're standardizing the data the right way, making sure that you have a sales process that is consistent and sales are creating opportunities from the right contact, etc. All of these things process happens in your CRM and data input through your marketing automation platform. You have to have that underlying foundation. We talk about all the time. It's why our go-to-market operations framework has a foundation layer and then a data and reporting layer above that.
Yeah.
You need to work on that foundation. You can't just skip over that and fix all your problems in your BI layer, because then you still have the problems underneath. And then the issue when you have the problems underneath is not just related to reporting. It means you've got a crappy process, right?
Yeah.
So then it makes your people are working in chaos. But then also now when it gets to the reporting side, people go, okay, well, you've tied this to this, or you've done this and this, but then actually that is not what happened in reality, and I don't trust it anymore.
Yeah.
So you can't shortcut that step. You have to fix the foundation.
I think also when there's companies at a certain size, they want to be a little bit self-service. But also when I think about dashboards, and I think Allison would agree with this too, it's like an exploratory tool. And also if you think about it, like some of that exploring is uncovering bad data. And so if you're just sending data to a table that no one is seeing, basically, no one's monitoring, no one's looking at the actual data underneath it, and then you're just trying to visualize that data, there's also, room for not capturing bad data or something that could be falsifying the reports and things like that. And so I think that that could also happen, which leads to lack of trust. I also think that just in general, if you have this process, you're beholden to the team who has access to that data. And that's where I also see a big problem is one, that person is completely stressed out because it's not like they're getting lack of requests. Every request they have a ton of questions behind it. And then there's also things like, you're busy, so let me go try and pull this report myself. And we know how that goes. That's not going to be the right thing to do. And so then there's teams reporting on different things. And then also it's likely not going to be, I think once you kind of open up that like world of, oh, well, let's just manipulate the data, it then creates this also environment of like, let's manipulate the data. Like that's what we're also seeing, where there's a team who's like, oh, okay, we know that you can do all this massaging to the data. Well, this thing is making our paid channels look bad. So can you just include this and report on this and stuff like that? And then that is something that they want to support, but it's also still in some way falsifying the data. And so you just get into this, like, I don't know, creating a culture of just massaging, manipulating, but not for the betterment, for worse, honestly.
And massages at work are kind of a no-no thing. So, but like, so
no massaging at work.
No, especially not with data.
Unless you're a masseuse.
Fair play. Fair point. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing related to that if often what happens is the people that are building out the data tables and everything in the warehouse and getting the data prep for BI, etc. They kind of end up working in a bit of a silo and kind of like building out this kind of Frankenstack of their own kind of like how I want to do this, because you're not doing the work first to work with your marketing team and go, this is how we need to get data and input data, and this is how we want to standardize that data and update the source and update the campaign membership and make sure we're tracking UTMs and all of that.
Yeah.
And then work with the sales team to go, this is how you create opportunities. If you create it this way, this is going to be how that opportunity value is tracked back to attribution. And this, if you do it this way, this is how it's going to be tracked back. This is how you do outbound. But when you work and you kind of bring all these teams together, like the partner team, the sales team, the team that's working the product, you've got a PLG strategy, to be able to work on that foundation, what you end up with is everyone aligned with how this foundation is now going to impact reporting.
Yeah.
But if you're only just focused on reporting and building out stuff there, you haven't got that alignment. So then another issue, like when you come and show everyone the reports, to your point, everyone's like, why is this tracked to that? Why is this doing that? Because they haven't been part of the process. All you've been doing is this technical work behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I'll say another thing that I see a lot is then you get into this doom spiral of reporting with no analysis and insights being drawn. And that's the whole point of why you want reporting. So what keeps happening is that person too is working in a silo, constantly pulling reports. But also what ends up happening is like the owners of even drawing the data and insights, one either gets lost because by the time they spend all those hours pulling the data, they're just like, here's CMO, go draw whatever you want from this.
Right. They don't have time to do the analysis.
And then also the people that can easily figure out how to draw insights, which are the people that are working on the go-to-market strategy, aren't part of that process sometimes either because they're not close enough to the data. And then that person is working the silo, so they're not working together. And I think that that's an issue that we're seeing where there's reporting out, but there's not insights discovered. And that is a complete miss for a business. It's like all they're really doing is saying, like, here's the status of our business. But when it comes down to things like planning, figuring out what channels to invest back into, even just doing some kind of core storytelling around how their marketing and sales efforts are doing, it's not there. And that is the value that you get out of having data, in my opinion.
100% agree. So now we've completely
trashed
doing this. So the one positive, so like, there are positives, like you started off with BI and warehouse, of course. Like then, Snowflake's a multi-billion dollar business.
Also, if you have a certain level of data that is just like incomprehensible, like user data, product, that serves its purpose.
Yeah, we're talking about like attribution data here, funnel data, lifecycle data,
campaign data,
core marketing data,
even like sales performance. Like I had that client running sales performance reports out of BI, and I'm like, no one's looking at this because that team isn't there. Right. They're not in that tool.
So, but the thing that I want to make sure is clear before we move on is once you have kind of your core data, the data type of data that we're talking about, kind of in a good place in Salesforce, okay, go hog wild in BI, and you can join other data sets into it. You can build awesome visualizations. You can put loads more filters on than you can a Salesforce dashboard. You can do all of the stuff that kind of like maybe you're limited with Salesforce reporting, but don't skip over those foundational steps to get the data in the right in the right format and quality data to be able to leverage in BI before you do that. So it's quite a nuanced point of view here. It's not black and white, never do it, always do it. It's get your core go-to-market data. If you want to know what that is, go have a look at our go-to-market operations framework. That has a lot of it on there.
Yeah.
In your CRM in a good place, and then push that over into your warehouse and BI and do what you want with it. Fine. You want people to be able to trust it, go back to Salesforce, see those records, see how they're attached to opportunities, see how they're attached to contacts and leads. And then, once they feel confident, then yes, all your visualizations and stuff in BI are going to be a lot better than you can do in Salesforce.
Yeah, and then I would caveat that you don't want to just go willy-nilly with creating all that. Like, we want to create like an analytics.
Okay, yeah, hog wild was not there.
I get what you're saying. The sentiment was there. Like, you can then like have some freedom and
have a structured analytics framework is the proper advice.
Exactly. And so go find our past podcasts and videos on an analytics framework.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's totally true. And I hate saying like once your data foundation, but what we're talking about is nail your funnel tracking, like preferably on one custom object. So it's easy to pipe into the data warehouse and and then also campaign data, campaign structure, and then your multi-touch attribution, which is built off a healthy campaign structure and tracking UTMs and so forth. So anywho,
boom.
That's it. Yeah.
Next.
Solved that big problem.
So GTM or GTFO, I've got one for you, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
if you're new listening, GTM or GTFO is go to market, or you can probably guess the get the F out of here. Where one of us brings something to the podcast or to show the other person, and the other person has to see if it's a good idea or not. If you go look at some of the other ones, we had like a call with a AI SDR, we've reviewed videos and all this stuff. So this one is a bit more serious. It's not going to be it's not like kind of funny. It's a bit more of like an actual topic. So I posted to LinkedIn earlier this week about incrementality reporting. And it sparked actually a really interesting debate that I learned a lot from, and I really enjoyed kind of seeing the healthy commentary and comments in there and back and forth.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be interesting to show
LinkedIn probably loved it too. The algorithm.
LinkedIn, the company, or
the algo.
I think small fish. CEO of LinkedIn's like, this is a great post.
No, the algorithm probably loved it. LinkedIn loves debates.
It does, yeah. It loves comments. Dwell time. So anyway, it was cool. I liked it because incrementality reporting is something that I feel like I've got, I'm getting there with my point of view on, but I'm still trying to really harness.
Yeah, it's new. It's fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the post, I'm going to put it up on, if you're listening to the podcast, hop over to YouTube. If you're watching, I'm going to put this up onto the screen for you to look at. And then I'm going to let Chrissy read it and probably just like pause the recording so you can read through it, and then we'll come back and you can tell me your thoughts on it, because I think it's both the post and the comments.
Okay.
All right, so we're just going to go through the post quickly for those that are listening. So my points were, I'm not convinced about incrementality reporting. One of the points is because there's a small sample size. Most B2B companies don't have enough data for these types of A/B tests. And pipeline pressure. So one of the things with incrementality is that you have to have a control group where you don't market to them to be able to compare against the group where you do send them this whatever particular channel and campaign. So my point was that most companies don't have the luxury of just not marketing to people, right? There's and having it. And then the other two are just buying complexity and untracked touch points. It's like a really complicated B2B buying process. How statistically significant is this going to be when you just remove one touch point? And then the last one is just untracked touch points. Doesn't solve for that. And if it's going to be a really much better than multi-attribution, how is it going to solve for such a massive issue with any type of attribution reporting?
Yeah.
So that's the post. I'm going to bring up Justin Norris. So Justin, friend of the podcast. We've been on his podcast. He's been on ours. Great guy. And I thought his comment was interesting. So his take, and again, we'll put this up onto the YouTube channel, but I'll read it quickly. The first one was, most companies actually do have enough data to be able to make this significant.
Top of funnel.
Top of funnel. The second point was that it doesn't actually only require a holdout group, because you can increase spend for a segment while leaving other flat. Like that increased spend is a difference.
Yep.
The third one was he was saying that I've got a misunderstanding of incrementality reporting, which might be fair. But it's more like a controlled medical trial. There may be thousands of complex differences between people, but you essentially control for that with your random cohorts. And then the only variable you change between them is the one you want to test. And the last one is incrementality doesn't rely on tracking touch points. So it's kind of not even a relevant point to bring up the fact of these untracked touch points. So why don't you, curious your take on that comment and see in general incrementality.
I kind of agree with him, but the only two things that are kind of conflicting to me right now is when he talks about there's enough volume top of funnel, but then also this ability to create a cohort. And I'm like, on something that you have control over, because to me, I get the thing around the spend and how you can maybe create that that cohort, but you don't even know that's one channel and it's like a target thing. I feel like that's where it would be interesting, is really around where you have that control of who's going to see what versus the other, or something very controllable that you can do as far as paid ads, the amount of spend. But when I think about an actual creating a cohort in general, I feel like that's actually geared maybe more even toward middle funnel, because you actually are able to segment that audience a bit better. Because when he talks about a medical trial, and how you kind of control one thing but keep everything. But also medical trials, there's a lot of rules that they put against those people. Hey, if you're doing a medical trial on, a supplement, they say don't take any other supplements, don't do this and that, and you don't have that control with top of funnel. They might be listening to your podcast, you can't track that. And so
there might be someone in the buying group that is engaging with the channel that you're trying to make that, like, you might be like, okay, CS2, I'm going to exclude them.
Yeah.
I'm going to exclude CS2, but I only actually have data on Chrissy, so I'm not going to market to Chrissy.
Yeah.
But Charlie could be doing
exactly
the thing that you're trying to.
That's why I think incrementality could be really great for B2C, because you're tying it down to like that one person. And I think we're stealing something from B2C, but I still feel like the complexity, and if anything, it's going more toward a buyer group anyway for B2B. I still feel like you can't compare that to a medical trial. And also saying that you have control of your cohort, top of funnel, to me, doesn't seem accurate.
Yeah. Let's dig into some other comments here, because the CEO of Paramark, who I think was on Justin's podcast, had a few comments back and forth here, and he shared, because one of the things that I was really trying to ask for from people is like, just show me examples, because like I hear all this theoretical stuff and it's like, cool,
yeah,
but I haven't heard anyone like, I've done this and it's been great for my B2B company, right? And that's where I'm just always like, okay, show me the receipts, show me this working, or give me the case studies. And all I hear is like, well, actually, we haven't actually done it, but like I totally theoretically think it's awesome, kind of thing. But it's interesting because he actually runs a company that does this. But then one of his examples, I'm going to read this out kind of quickly. So basically, I'll put this up on the screen for YouTube. They essentially, what they did is they broke out the cohorts by state, and then they picked 8 test markets and some others to be in the control group, and then they tried out a new format on LinkedIn and only ran it in the 8 test states, and then they looked at number of leads from each market to see if they got more leads out of those 8 states than the ones that were in the control group that weren't getting the LinkedIn ads. I actually had a kind of a pretty strong opinion on this after he posted that, but I'm curious, like, what do you think of that test?
I don't know. Sometimes, like, how did they come up with the states that they chose? It feels like biased a little bit, maybe. Like, or I don't know. How did they come up with that? Because there's so many things, like even down to like geographics. Like, oh, was California and New York in one of your groups? Like
that was exactly my point. My point was like, okay, if you're selling a product to VCs, right?
Yeah.
And California's in your test group, then now it's going to make it look like this is working really well because that's where all the VCs are, compared to, like, I don't know, Alaska. So like so the problem is when you're thinking about variable control in an experiment, you now have actually 2 variables. His response was, we all help you pick the markets that can so you can kind of maybe remove some of that bias.
Okay.
I don't know, that fair enough.
I think it's what it could be great for in telling you is if the other segments that you maybe also know that aren't that great compared to like California still aren't great. I would be like, okay, that's just showing you maybe like don't invest in those regions. And I would say, okay, well, at least you get some of that data out of it. But I still feel like that's more not what incrementality is trying to show you, because that's looking at like the effort, the channel effectiveness and stuff like that, rather than just like your segmentation is good or your ICP. So I see it that you're getting great data on something that you weren't actually trying to test.
Yeah. Okay. So next we'll get to the whole actually GTM or GTFO kind of like at the end. But another comment here from someone with an awesome name, Charlie. So he said, the problem with incrementality is that it assumes your buyers are in market and will take action within the test time frame. This becomes an issue if you're long consideration journey. This is back to my point of complexity. The buyer's journey is the complex buyer's journey. For example, if you run a 4-week test, but it takes 5 weeks for a prospect to convert, the results won't capture that.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's kind of what I agree too. I also think like okay, so the volume is top of kind of what I was saying, the volume's top of funnel, but for most companies, I think where you can be confident in your control is on things where you have literal control, like nurture a group, not nurture a group, and just do a random sample. That and knowing that like that one thing they're not gonna okay, that can be useful, but then to me that also just seems like that's just testing. That's just like A/B testing, like does your nurture have a lift versus not? And I think that can be great. And so I get the concept of incrementality and I think it can be useful, but running go-to-market strategies is already hard enough. Like I feel like there's to me it seems way more useful for B2C. Also, you have to be very confident that you have control over your cohorts or the creation of your cohorts is good. And that, yeah, just like the nature of how people buy, I just feel like you don't have control over your prospects. Like you don't, yeah, it's not a medical trial. In my opinion, medical trials, if we were trying to test out whether marketing is working, you'd put them into a house and be like, you can't look at anything else. You can't watch TV. You can't do whatever. You just need to do all, put a very controlled environment, in my opinion. But
Last comment, and then we'll kind of have a bit of a summary here from Nadia Davis. So she said, if you take one thing, which is part of many things, and decouple it from the rest of the ecosystem to examine, how accurate would that impact correlation be?
yeah.
She goes on to say some more in the comment that I'll put up on the screen, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think that's what I'm trying to I think I agree with that too. That's kind of the sentiment that I have is just like how confident can you feel when especially you're just kind of manipulating like one thing. And then there's just so much of the buyer journey now that you won't be able to control.
Yeah.
Even
And
literally down to like that person's gonna go call someone. They're gonna text message their friend. They're gonna ask them about your tool. Like those are the things that drive purchase
actually drive it.
decisions.
Okay. So this is your point there is so interesting because that I actually hadn't even thought of this as much until I did this post and had some of these comments. So your point there that is like, oh, there's so much going on, right? That we're not going to be able to track. The incrementality advocate would say, well, that doesn't matter, right? That's always kind of happening in different ways across different deals. We're going to remove one thing, change this one variable, and see if there is a significant difference between the test group, and the control group, and that shouldn't matter. But my thought on this is, what are most people testing here? They're testing things like digital channels, right? Because like you can't test a podcast or an event and be like, maybe you could like a digital event where you have a lot of people, but like if you're doing like a small breakfast, it's going to be really hard to like test that and make it statistically significant. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, I don't think it matters that much if say you're marketing to agencies and you've got CS2 in your control group, so you're not going to market to us, but you're going to market to other people. Am I not going to buy your product, that dramatically based on if I don't see a Google ad? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, how much is that ad influencing my purchase decision? And I think this comes back to a bit more of a theoretical marketing
Mhm.
conversation that I've heard some people talk on LinkedIn, which is about like demand.
Mhm.
A lot of people say like you don't really create demand. People have a problem that now has demand, right? Because
Mhm.
you're trying to solve that problem. I think you can kind of create your own demand by like marketing to people in the right way and helping them see their problems in the right way. But
I
like,
think that companies
but
create brand awareness and then the problem creates demand. And then once you have those two things very strongly, that's
right,
when you can get into a purchase with that company potentially.
right. But then if just like this for a few weeks you just turn off that we see these ads, how much is there really going to be that of a dramatic response where like now all of those people just don't buy from you because there's like all these other channels that they can be engaging with you from, right? And there's like, you know, all of just like the stuff that the trackable stuff that we're pushing out there versus the non-trackable stuff. So it's kind of like coming down to like how influential is each individual touch point. And I know they're saying like incrementality isn't about touch points, but like touch point meaning someone's interaction with your brand, whether it's like actually tracked or not. So how valuable is each one when there's hundreds, maybe thousands across the buyer's journey, particularly in big enterprise deals where there might be like 20 people in a purchasing decision? How important is it that just like this one channel, it's that one channel isn't going to be the difference between them buying or not, or them like coming into your pipeline or not, at kind of such a massive scale that the results are going to be that interesting.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I have. That is the one thing that's kind of making me really question this, and that's why I want to see examples. Like, show me.
Yeah, I want to see examples.
I took this out, and then this. I saw this massive difference in conversion rates, or this massive difference in pipeline generated when these people were marketed to for this channel, and these people weren't. And that's I know, and I kept on asking anyone that's had anything positive. I would say, can you please give me an example? And no one, I didn't see, had no examples.
Yeah, same thing. So like where the other day I asked, like, who's doing outbound with AI? Great. It's like, oh, this one influencer who talks about it all the time is doing it great. It's like, cool.
Yeah. And obviously, side point. This I want to make sure that when we're doing our content, you know, we are giving kind of really practical examples and advice whenever we're talking about things, because I don't want to be in the same thing where we're like kind of showing something, but then it doesn't really have like as much to back it up.
So, I think and also I will say if we're just talking about incrementality for B2B.
Yeah, so GTM or GTFO.
I think right now still GTFO for me. What I would rather B2B GTM teams get into maybe more of a mentality around, and which is similar to incrementality, but just experimenting. Like, you don't have to be so like caught up in like this, oh, incrementality, because so much work, and then you're adding another thing that's getting in the way of your team building a brand and doing the things right. But if you can actually experiment with different channels, report on them, that's where I feel like you'll get a better I don't know, bang for your buck. Even experimenting like groups to go after with different messaging. So like more of that, because companies are barely doing that. So like I don't know how they're going to adopt incrementality, in my opinion. And
then on the reporting side, focus on your pipeline lifecycle first. Get that down, because that's where most of your budget's going. That's where you've got data now in your sales process, and you can tie that back to different marketing activities. Then just build out multi-touch attribution. Yes, it's kind of like a rearward looking metric where you're kind of going, okay, like what has happened? And yes, that might not 100% align to what will happen in the future, kind of like the stock market. But it's relatively easy to set up, and then you can start putting some insights out of that. Or do self-reported attribution, interview your customers, learn what's actually resonating with them. And then maybe once you've done all of that, and you still need more insight, which I would say most companies probably don't, and maybe you're getting a bit too crazy on trying to get insight at that point, then do incrementality. But for B2B, it's like, I think there's a lot of ways that you can get really good directional data, and a lot easier than having to do like these big experiments that probably might not even give you much insight. So I don't like saying GTFO because that's a bit harsh, but like
I'm like in between.
I'm more on the GTFO though, probably. But I don't want to criticize. I don't want to be like harsh to anyone who's like really into this. If you're really into it though, message us. You know, I'd love to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
You know, we do that. We do reporting for clients. I'd love to be able to offer them something new that's really interesting and really helps. Last thing here, maybe we should probably keep this relatively quick because I know we've been. So a question on our YouTube video for our custom objects. So maybe we can take a couple of these between us. Okay. He actually had a few. So his name's Brad Sutton by the looks of it. So great demo. Thanks, guys. We'd love to see more scenarios played out. So yes, Brad, we're posting more on our custom object over the next weeks and months. More case studies, actually, to our point of bringing receipts. What happens if a contact is added to more than one open opportunity And can a lead in contact be in more than one active life cycle? You want to take that one, or you want me to take that one?
You can take that one.
So first off, a lead contact cannot be in more than one active life cycle. There is a one-to-one relationship between active life cycle and lead contact, but there is a one-to-many relationship between total life cycles and the lead in contact. They have to, though, be in an active buying stage while they're in that active life cycle is being updated. And then once they move out of an active buying stage, as in there's a closed lost opportunity or they've been recycled pre-opportunity, the active life cycle is closed. And then if they re-enter the funnel, get into a sales ready / MQL stage again, the tipping point, then we will create a new active life cycle, which essentially follows them along until they either hit closed one or get recycled again.
We have done one workaround for a client who we knew was going to have multiple opportunities open at one time. But the thing that we did was it will take on whatever the status of the most furthest along life cycle, and only until all life cycles are closed will it be closed out. Now this is custom automation and is a lot of complexity, and I will tell you, if you try to explain that to people, they're going to get confused. So
yeah.
But that is an option, but it's just not like really how we build it usually.
And then the first part of the question here, what happens if a contact is added to more than one open opportunity? So when that happens, they get added to the opportunity. That doesn't change. There'll be a secondary contact role on the opportunity, or third, fourth, fifth, whatever. But then their status will be set to something like, opportunity, additional contact, or something like that. Our automation handles both, is kind of triggered by the status update, but then also updates the status in some use cases. So, for example, when someone is added to an opportunity, if they are the first person, and when the opportunity is created, it'll change their status to open opportunity or whatever you want it to be. But most of our clients will choose open opportunity to represent they are the main contact on the opportunity. But the secondary contacts would just be set to open opportunity, secondary contact. So as an identifier to say, like, this person's on the op, but they're not the primary contact.
I would say also, if you're kind of wondering, we have a lot of different people who are part of the buying group, and how do we see all the activity that's happening on an account? That's where, once you've set up the foundation for a person funnel, like maybe exploring setting up an account funnel in stages could be very useful. And that's where you can then benefit from seeing kind of everything that's kind of happening at that account.
Side point. So we have our custom object package, Salesforce package for the person funnel. We are in development, late stage development for the account funnel.
Yep.
Built this for a few clients now starting to package it up. It's going to be really great. More to come on that. More questions. So what happens if a lead is converted into a contact that already has an active life cycle? So as in, like, in this case, it's merging, right? So when they say lead is converting into a contact, there's already a contact with an active life cycle and the lead's being converted. So we have a lot of merge handling. This is where the package is really great, because trying to build this yourself, there's so many edge cases with like merging and lead conversion scenarios. For example, there's 35 different lead conversion scenarios we've had to account for. One of them being, lead is converted into a contact that has an active life cycle. So our merge handling will handle that. If the lead doesn't have an active life cycle, obviously it's going to be converted into the contact and the active life cycle. If the lead has its own active life cycle, then one of the life cycles will be deactivated and will have a flag on saying, like, this was essentially a duplicate life cycle, but we will retain it, and then we'll just continue keeping the active life cycle, and there's rules around that. Do life cycles ever close automatically after a period of inactivity? So the life cycle itself does not close automatically, but often for most of our clients, there will be some kind of like auto recycle automation that's actually more based on the lead or the contact. So if it's sat in a working stage and there hasn't been a sales activity for, say, a month, then depending on the client's rules, we'll automatically set them to recycle and have a reason, like sales and activity or something like that.
Which I highly recommend.
Highly recommend. And so then when that happens, the status changes to recycle, and then that will close the life cycle. So life cycles don't close themselves. they get closed based on what happens on the lead, contact, and opportunity.
Or if an opportunity gets updated, then potentially like the contacts, if it gets closed lost or closed won, those would update appropriately, as well as additional contacts if you want it to. That could be tied to the opportunity.
Yeah, and the last question: does the contact stages match the lead stages? Yes. Our belief, and this is irrespective of whether you have lifecycle tracking on a custom object, the state you should have a lead status and contact status. They should both have the same values, although there probably will be some values on the contact that aren't on the lead, just because there's like open opportunity and customer status on the contact, which you probably don't need on the lead. But you would at least have all of the statuses from the lead on the contact.
Yeah.
This is because when a contact maybe gets worked, gets converted into an opportunity, sorry, a lead gets worked, gets converted into a contact and opportunity. Now it's a contact, opportunities closed last. You want to be able to still, re-sales ready or re-MQL and work through the sales process as a contact, and do not create a duplicate lead and then work that while you have a lead and a contact, and then convert the lead into the contact. You want to be able to just kind of keep it as a contact and work through the sales process as you would a lead. So there you go. That's all the questions from Brad. Thank you for the question, Brad.
Yeah, good questions. Well,
there you go.
I think that's it for this week. So thank you everyone for listening. And if you made it all the way through, thank you even more, and hope you enjoyed that episode. If you have someone on your team or someone you know that would love listening, please forward it on. It would be great. And we'll see you next time on the Revenue Growth Architects podcast. Thanks.
Thank you.